All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pursuit of Relentless podcast. You've got your host here, Alaina. And today I have a duo for us, and I'm super excited because it's a father and son collaboration. And you guys are going to have a really great time learning from them. And I'm excited to get you introduced to them. So maybe you guys can take a second and introduce yourselves and just go, hey, this is what we're all about. And tell a little bit of your story on how you got into business together and what it's been looking like so far.
Hey, Alaina, thanks so much for having us. So we're here today to talk about What the F is Next, a book that we co-authored together. This book was a process that genesised from my dad's work as a professional development coach and a business professional coach for about 20 years. And then he, through that process, created a workbook called The Field Guide for What's Next, and wrote a book about kind of research that went into that 7 years ago. And we, after he published that, I was doing the process myself. And I did the process. I filled out the workbook. It's an actual workbook similar to what we have today. And I just kind of put it on the shelf. I didn't really think about it, just filled it out. And then it was about 2.5 years ago now. I was or a little bit longer than that. I was looking through some old boxes and stuff, and I found the workbook that I had filled out. And I saw that it was very clearly in the workbook that I had written that I wanted to learn to surf and travel the world. And after reading that, I got chills on the back of my neck because I'd just come back from a trip around the world where I learned how to surf. Cool. So I was like, oh my gosh, wow, there's something clearly here to this process. And so then I was like, all right, maybe I should try this again. And so I filled out the process again, and it was very clear that I wanted to get a job at Google. That felt like the next kind of great step in my career. So I filled it out. That was very clear. I applied to Google a bunch of times, but I didn't hear back at all. And then I had an opportunity to move to Santa Cruz, which is a lot closer to Silicon Valley. And as soon as I moved out there, I was reached out to by a recruiter at Google, and I've been at Google ever since. So with that, I was like, wow, there's so much to this process, and I really want to use this and figure out a way to, share and explore it more. So my dad and I were hanging out, and we were actually fly fishing together, and we chatted about, is there a way that we could collaborate on kind of a new iteration and a more kind of tangible product that is easier for people to fill out and to utilize. And that was about 2 years ago. And then we just dove into it, and we created a book that is kind of starts with our examination of how we get distracted on the path of what we really want. Mm-hmm. And then the science that goes into the process itself, and then sets people up to do the process. And then it's a 3-step process that will help you identify specifically an area of your life that you want to make change, and then give you the tools to actually make applicable change in about 30 to 60 days.
That's incredible. Yeah, I did a workbook as well. It was Darren Hardy's Living Your Best Year Ever. And it really helped me just look back. And that's like a daily tracker system. Mm-hmm. And it was helping me go back to when I was my absolute best and discovering that about myself. Okay, where was I at my personal development? Where was I falling down? What was I doing good? What was I not doing good? What can I improve on now? But it really helped me look back at, like you said, going into, okay, this is what I'm trying to create. And I want to be a surfer across the country. And mm-hmm. It's so cool to just be able to have that vision for your life and then be able to create that for yourself. So I'm actually doing an event in about a week and a half here. And it's just called Dream Big. And I want people to be able to do a vision board for themselves and look into what planning their next steps are, because I feel like a lot of people are dream flat. And maybe you can talk about that a little bit, because it's a big problem, especially in Canada. But it's been a fun process to kind of help people learn that they can plan out what their life is going to look like. If they're focused on it, they can make it happen, right?
Yeah, totally. Kind of to that dream flat thing, I think what happens a lot is that we don't check in on what we want enough, and we don't check in on how we want changes, because life is a series of phases, and what you really want will change. So, if when you start to think about this, usually you're in high school or something, and a counselor asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And you say, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a race car driver or something like that. And so those dreams were very big, but then life kind of comes at you and reality kind of sets in, and then you are feeling probably flat because you're like, last time you checked in on this, you want to be a race car driver. So it's like, well, I'm never going to be a race car driver now that I'm, in accounting or something. But that's not the point. Like, the point is that there's a lot of things you could do as an accountant that are still freaking awesome in your life. And so you just need to check in regularly, and then, create intentions and dreams that are, applicable to your life now that will be awesome.
Yeah. And David, what got you into wanting to write this book?
I have written two previous books. One is Everyday Visionary, and the other was, as Colton mentioned, the Field Guide for What's Next. And they really were meant to be one book. So the one book is Everyday Visionary, the practical guide to getting into the life you desire, was really meant to inspire people to use intention more in their lives. Somewhat like what you're talking about. People just don't do it enough. They don't take the time, step back and think about how they want their lives to be. So that was the first book. The second book is a process that I've developed over many, many years, incorporating so many different folks into different scientific concepts into creating a process that helps people create the intention and then make the journey towards making it happen. So, and then when Colton said, "Hey, Dad, let's put those two books together and add the component of him and I having both been intentional." I've used intention now for pretty close to 50 years. And for myself personally, and then most of my research writing has been about intention. So I have my perspective of being, 71, and Colton has really lived an intentional life pretty early on. He was an entrepreneur back when he was, I think it was 16 when he put on his first concert, live DJ concert in a venue in Colorado Springs. Wow. So he's been on an entrepreneurial journey early, as I was. I had my first entrepreneurial business back when I was 16 as a landscaping company. So, we had that in common. And so the opportunity to do that, and then to provide our different perspectives on how we have used intention as entrepreneurs and as people in our lives to have relationships, health, travel, all these things. Wow, what a great opportunity to do that with Colton. And, one of the things that you will experience as a not yet parent is that when I was a not yet parent, I just looked at the fact, I'm going to have this child. And we had two children because Colton has an older sister, 7 years older, and that it's going to be great. You're going to teach them how to, how to read. You're going to teach them how to play baseball. You're going to teach them, whatever it is. You're going to have this experience of teaching another human being. The part that I didn't realize is that as they became adults, we became more or less peers. So since both of them have been 18, we have shared our lives more as peers. And so they offer me ideas and inspiration about things that I would never have if I was just a single, 71-year-old man or non-parented, it just wouldn't happen. So many of those things that I'm talking about right here are in our book. And so we had a chance to both reflect on that and weave that together into something that we both hope that people on the whole span from 25 to, 80 go, hey, I relate to that piece. And if it worked maybe for them, maybe I'll try it. And so I think that is somewhat the heart of how we came together and why we wrote this book together.
I love that. And how much has it changed your relationship being able to write a book together?
Yeah. Like my dad said, we've had a great relationship. And, we've always done trips and, just coexisted in a great way, but there's nothing like, jumping into a creative endeavor with somebody else that just kind of, creates this whole different relationship. That is, you have to figure out how to work with each other and how to provide feedback and how to, live in a place of supportive, development. So that's been really, really awesome. It just kind of gets us more connected and understanding each other and how we think on a deeper way, which has been a really awesome additional blessing to the project.
That's incredible. I like that you did it as a workbook too, because I find that a lot of people will kind of just like read a book and not actually dig into it. So my book, Pursuit of Relentless, a guidebook for your best life possible, is the same style, right? Because I was like, if you're going to be doing the work, you may as well do the work, you know? And I find that for myself, I have ADHD. So I'm just like scratching my face or like, you know, like I'm a little bit all over the place. But then it's like, okay, well, how can I make myself sit down, make myself go through this work and not super forcefully, but like intentionally, like you said, go into the process of, okay, my goal is to make myself better. And what is next, right? And it's a process of just learning what matters to you and what really, you know, means a lot to yourself. And I think that, like you said, that changes over time. And so there's a lot of people out there who are struggling right now. I'm in the financial industry primarily. And when I look at people's goals, it's always like, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be comfortable. And I'm like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just so frustrated with that because it's like, they've just had these people tell them, okay, yeah, you want to be an astronaut, or, you know, like you're saying in school, we have these big dreams, but then we have dream stealers and people who tell us we can't do it. Right. So I remember when I first started in the financial industry, I was $100,000 in debt. And I was like, you want me to do what? Like, you want me to be a financial advisor? You're crazy. No one's going to listen to me. And they said, Alaina, you will be able to share your story with so many people because you have a very similar situation to a lot of people. And when you get out of it, they're going to want to listen to you. Right. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Right. I was 26 years old and just like felt like I had no idea where my life was going. But the company really helped me discover a lot about myself that I didn't know I was capable of doing. And so when I was asked, like, okay, dream big, if time and money weren't holding you back, what would you do with your life? I started crying so profusely because I was like never able to dream that big before. It was like, I guess I'd buy a big house, you know, like, that was about as big as I could dream. And I was like, I'd have a nice car and a nice house and that's it. And then it was over the years going, well, I'd really like to retire my husband. So that's like one of my big goals is being able to retire my husband. And now we're expecting a baby. And so it's like, okay, well, it's kind of cool that I'll get to retire him for like 5 months, you know, or have him at home for a couple months, you know, like that'll be neat because it'll give him a taste of what's coming. Right. Because I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I know I say it all the time, but I don't think he actually wants to retire. He's pretty young. But it's just being able to go into those conversations a little bit differently with yourself as well. But one of the things that's really shifted for me, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but when I think about what's next, I want to think about what I can do for my family instead of just like what I want to do for myself. So I don't know if you guys get that kind of feedback from a lot of people, but one of the big goals that I have is to give back to my community. Right. So I'm doing free financial education courses and stuff like that because I'm like, man, this town is pretty bad when it comes to a lot of very settled people, we'll say. They're very like living for the weekend and that's it. And I'm like, doesn't that get boring? You know, like I want to live for, like you said, going and learning how to surf in other countries. I met someone from Costa Rica the other day. She's like, you can have my place in Costa Rica anytime. And I'm like, man, I manifested that for sure. You know, like that's so cool. But I don't know. Maybe you can walk people through the process of just discovering what really makes them tick and giving them a couple tips on how to plan for what's next.
Yeah. Dad, how about you take that one?
Yeah. And when you first started speaking, you were talking about the fact that many people just haven't taken the time to step back in their life and look at their life in a way to then reevaluate, are they living the life they most desire? And is there anything different? And so I think this might be an opportunity to share something that we're offering to your listeners, which is we have a What's Next course. It's a 30-day What's Next course. And the end of the year, beginning of the next year is really a good time. It's a window that a lot of people say, okay, I can take the time, a little bit of time to look at my life, how it's been the last year, or you can go back further and then think about things that you want to have happen. So the issue that we have found has been difficult for people. Our process works. It's worked for us and it's worked for other people. But the thing is, most people, as you're referring to, it's difficult to have the motivation, even though you have the desire, to have the motivation to actually do something to catalog, to inventory your life in a way that then you can build on that for what you most want to have happen in the future. So what we're going to offer to your listeners through the middle of January, I think this podcast posts somewhere in the first week of December. And what we're offering is that they need to go to our website, and we'll talk about it at the end again, but it's theFisNext.com. And they'll go to that website, and there will be a spot for them to fill in just their email. And I think there's one other question that they have to put in there, probably that they were referred to this by being a listener of your podcast. And that signs them up for our, what would be a $225 course that if once they buy our book on Amazon, they're going to get that for free. Wow. So we're offering that to your listeners because we would really like to see your people have that support and a course that hopefully they'll be in for 30 days. They will be in for 30 days. At the end of it, they will have identified the things that are important in their life and some things about what they want to have happen next in at least one important area of their life.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. I think that's a really big give. So that's much appreciated because there's a lot of people out there that say they know what they're doing, but you guys have proved it, right? You've written a book about it. You've taken the time out to do your research and go through the process and work together on this kind of stuff and put two brains together to be like, hey, this is what's actually going to help you. And like you said, it's a process and you can't just do it in a 1 hour dream board session like I'm going to do.
Right.
Right.
No.
And it's like, you can start thinking about it, but you don't necessarily know what's going to come to your mind. Like, I want to build my mom her dream house. And she's like, I'm good where I'm at. I'm like, no. Like, I want to build you a dream house because it's something that she would never ask me for. And it's something that I would feel so passionate about that it would give me a lot of fulfillment, that kind of stuff. So when I look at what's next for myself, I'm like, man, I just promoted my first senior broker in my firm. And it's like just the start of my business. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, it's so cool to be able to go into it with all new eyes and go, we're starting in a new town now, right? I'm 4 months into living in Port Alberni, and it's a very different environment here versus Northern Alberta oil sands, right? Oil sands country is very transient. It's very, people don't necessarily come from there. Like, they don't know what he's from Fort McMurray. Everyone's from other places, but everyone comes together because they want a better life, right? And everyone's there for the money. So being in the financial industry is really interesting when you sit down with people and they just go, I want comfort. And I'm like, where do you want to retire? They're like, we haven't thought about that yet. I don't think we'll ever retire. And I'm like, you're making $300,000 a year. What do you mean you're never going to be able to retire? You know what I mean? I'm like, but that's because, like you said, they haven't sat down and thought about it. What does it look like? Where do you want to retire? What do you want to have that lifestyle look like? And I have a lot of people who are like, oh, I'll just never retire. And I'm like, but is that by choice, or is that because you don't want to own up to the fact that you haven't sat down and thought about it yet? So
I think that a lot of people, and I think it's a good point. Unfortunately, I hear that story more often than not.
Oh, yeah.
That people are saying, I'm gonna mark my time now, and then I'll enjoy it later. And we can guarantee that we have a very simple, and I said we can support people over a 30-day process that they're going to at least know one aspect of their life that is exactly how they want it to be, and they're going to start on the journey towards that. And now they don't have to wait until, quote, they retire or something else happens. You can make it happen right now. You can, and it's changing that perspective to the present moment. And intention does that. It's not magic. It's not a magic bullet that, oh, if I have an intention, all of a sudden it's going to fall from the sky. No. But what it does do, and there's, this is where the science, that we're fortunate to have reached this point in the 21st century, where we know how the brain actually works, that once we program our brains, our subconscious, unconscious brain, however you like to refer to it, with an idea, the brain's job is to help find opportunities to make that happen. And the more clear and specific that a person is about that, the more likely that they're going to see the opportunities to make it happen. So yes, it helps to have an action plan and all these different things. But I'll tell you, the first and foremost, most important thing is to be sure that you've identified as clearly and specifically what it is that you most want. And just using a term like, oh, I just want to be happy, or I just want to not work so much, or I want to just live a warmer place. The chances of that desire converting into an outcome are slim to none. But as soon as you put a very clear description of that by the end of the year, you want to live in a place that's 60 degrees or more, and you want to be working in elder care to support you, the chances of that happening have gone up exponentially. And that's what we're excited about. Colton and I, we're excited about helping people do that. And our book and process is meant to be a tool to do that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event in Mexico because one of my goals for that year was develop my visualization practice. And I had no idea what that meant. And this was like 2019 or 2020 actually. And I was like, what the heck does that mean, right? Like, develop your visualization practice. Again, super vague. And I didn't know what to expect from that. I was like, okay, I'm going to work on my visualization and do more meditation and stuff like that, because I was told that would help me manifest success and that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then my friend Angela called me and she's like, yeah, I'm going to Dr. Joe Dispenza's week-long intensive in Mexico in 2 weeks. And I was like, that's it. I'm supposed to go to that event. And so I was like, oh, my husband's totally going to say no. Like, I got to come up with the money for it. It was like $4,000 or something. And then it was just like, I got paid almost to the dollar exactly how much money I needed to pay for the event. And then my husband was like, I totally think you should go. That'd be incredible. You should definitely do that. And I was like, whoa, like, this is happening. Right. And when I got back from that event, that was when I really started understanding how you can use your intention and your focus to create what you're looking for. And I sat with another lady, her name's Sue Lewington Bide, and she does hypnosis. And she said, because I was having a really hard time conceiving. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm blocking myself from. Like, I've always wanted to be a mom. And it's like, okay, well, what's happening? Well, she said, took me back to like my childhood, like during this whole like hour-long hypnosis session. And it was like just so mind-blowing and so vivid for me. And then she's like, go back to the time when you blocked yourself from having a baby. And I was like, oh, I know exactly when that was, like just in the instant, I was like, wow. And then she helped me release it. Right. And then she did a little, like a 10-minute meditation for me that I could listen to. And it's just like prepping my uterus for a baby. And now we're 17 weeks pregnant. So I'm just like, wow, it's so incredible that you can just put that intention out there, but you have to be hyper focused on it. But not like every day thinking about it. But I don't know, that does really help me in my success journey. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a big focus of mine to build a family. And it took me moving back to my roots, like back to BC. And within 2 weeks, I got pregnant. And I was like, holy cow. That's all it took, was me listening to my body instead of shutting it out and going, no, I'm good here. No, I'm good. It was like, no, it's time to go home. And I was in Fort McMurray for 13 years, and I love it up there, but at the same time, it's not home. And I was always really skeptical of the healthcare and stuff like that. And so there was just mental blocks there for me. And I was having a hard time with the doctors, and it was awful, not gonna lie. But literally just moving home gave me that peace and that tranquility to be like, okay, my body's ready for this, And so now it's coming. I'm like super terrified, but very excited because I don't know what to plan for and I don't know what to expect. And it's, it's going to be a new journey altogether. That's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. You have a pretty clear what the fuck is next.
Yeah, definitely. Not knowing necessarily what that's going to look like, but I try and visualize it. I try and think about like what it's going to be like when I'm a parent and like running a business and multiple businesses as a parent, because I don't want to give up on my dreams. I dream of being a multimillionaire. I can't create that if I'm not working, I can't change lives if I'm not calling people, And so I look at that and it's like, yes, I've written a book, which is my biography, but at the same time, it's a workbook. And hey, here's the podcast I've listened to. Here's the books that I would highly suggest and that kind of stuff, because this is what's helped me change my life. But everyone's different. And that's something that I've learned a lot over the years is sometimes people need to hear it from you and not from me, because people get parent deaf. I'm sure you can talk about that a little bit, but it's definitely been a process of just learning to connect people with others that I think can really help them. So I love that you guys are working together on this, because it's an important thing that people need to help them move past the blocks that they have, I believe.
Well, I think it's to your what you said about being a little bit, having some fear about what the future as a parent looks like. And certainly in my 70 years, I've had lots of opportunities for things like that were happening. And I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but I think that even what Colton and I are doing now, having this book together, doing these podcasts, we've done, 12 or 13 podcasts together. We're doing this one with you. And then, and we've designed now the course to go along with our process. And there could be in a lot of ways, there's a lot of time and money that goes into any of these kind of things. And that could certainly, raise for me some fear, doubt, anxiety that I'm going to spend all this time on something and maybe we're not going to get what we want. We're not, for example, we weren't as happy with the fact that we wrote this really great book. It's received well, but it wasn't fully doing what we most wanted it to do, which was get people to do the process to actually have positive changes in their life. Most people would say, I love the process. I can't wait to do it, but they don't do it. Right. So we figured that out. And so now we're on a new journey. So we have articulated an intention for where we want to be. We're going to, develop this more and more. We're working on it through this summer. And so with that intention for myself, and Colton can speak to where he's at, I think that some of that fear, doubt, and anxiety, because we are clear on why we're doing it and what we hope to have happen. And I have enough experience. I have this little phrase that I use sometimes when fear, doubt, and anxiety rise up for me, is that this will work out to my satisfaction, as it always has. And it doesn't mean that it's going to work out exactly like I would like it to be, but it will always be to my satisfaction. And that's because I have thought about it. I've grounded it into things that are legitimate, that things that I know I've already been good at. I don't usually make an intention to become an astronaut, something like that, too far of a stretch. I'm always stretching for sure, but I find that spot where it feels comfortable, that I think it's possible, not that it's something so far out that, become a billionaire. Yeah, no, I'm not interested in becoming that. So I put a little bit of guardrails, but it's definitely a push push from where I am right now. So that's the other really positive thing about intention for me. It lets me feel like I'm more in control of my life and where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really important. Colton, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was really well said.
Cool. Yeah. It's about having that vision for yourself, though. And I think a lot of people just, like I said earlier, don't take that time to sit down and go through the process. And I think when you can do a 30-day program and have that accountability, I think accountability is extremely important.
That's a good point. Thank you for adding that. Yes.
Even for myself. So like I have an accountability group with my team, and we do what's called the Daily Five. So reading 10 pages of a good book, reading our goals every single day, moving our business forward, being accountable to somebody, and then pre-planning our next day. And so when we go through those 5 steps, it's like you can't not be intentional when you know exactly what's coming tomorrow. I know how many appointments, I know I've confirmed them, I know what my next week looks like, I know how many appointments I need next week to make X amount of dollars or help X amount of families or whatever it is, right? But when I removed that piece from my toolbox, let's call it, I went a couple months without doing my accountability. Man, my habits slipped hardcore. I wasn't reading my 10 pages every single day. I was skipping days, or I'd skip an exercise day, or, it was just not as focused. And I think that when you have other people supporting you, like you guys are doing, and helping you work through those emotions and those self-doubt moments of like, there's no way I can accomplish that. Well, maybe not today, right? But maybe in 3 years from now or 5 years from now, you can create that, right? Like you were talking about earlier, going and surfing the world, like that's incredible. And I have a buddy right now who's in Mexico, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to start my day out with a surf tomorrow. Like, wow, man, that's incredible. And so I look at that and I'm like, anything is possible if you set your mind to it. And you can create those neural pathways in your brain and help your brain try and find what it's looking for. Because when you're not focused on, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is where we're going, you're kind of just like in limbo is what I call it. Like you're just existing instead of being intentional with your day. And so I think that's a really important thing to really try and dig into. Like, am I existing or am I living? And that's a big topic of conversation right there. But yeah.
I think, and just to your point, it's never been more challenging to stay focused on things. There's a myriad of distractions. And so it's never been more important for, I think, all of us to get clear about the things that are important in our life. So that's a really good point. Distractions are huge now.
Yeah. So is there any tips that you guys could give the audience on how to get started on the process? Like, obviously reaching out to you guys, reading your book, that kind of stuff is going to help them work through that process. But maybe you can give them one tip on here's what we did to get started.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just verbalize it, get it out into the world, right? And so that it could be going and doing our process or doing another process, but it can be as simple as just talking it through with somebody, and getting feedback. Just making it real and saying it out loud, I think, is the first step.
I love that. So a little piece of my story. In 2017, I went full-time with my business in October. I was 296 pounds at that time. I'm 6 feet tall, but I was still a very, very big girl. So I was like, I need to take care of that because I didn't feel good about myself. I was super depressed. I was like getting winded walking up a set of stairs. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, clearly need to take care of my health because I kept telling myself that my health was a priority. And I was like, really, is it a priority if you just eat a whole pizza? Probably not. And so I did a program called 75 Hard. And if you haven't heard of that, you should check it out because it's pretty incredible. But it's a mental toughness program, and it teaches you how to control your habits so that your mind doesn't have to think about it. And it's like you do the routine every single day. You drink a gallon of water, you read your 10 pages, you do your 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside. I lived in Fort McMurray, Alberta, where it's minus 50, And I took one picture And in that moment, everything changed for me because I committed to the program. I failed the first time. I failed 3 times. Let's be real. I've done it a few times, but it was so crazy in those moments when I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I'm like, wait, I'm doing it. You know, like I'm in the process of completing this. And I took a photo of myself one day. It was 37 below. So plus wind chill. So almost minus 50. And I call myself the ice queen in this photo because all you can see is this much of my face. I couldn't even wear my glasses. I normally wear glasses because it was so cold. I had icicles on my eyelashes and my whole hat was ice and my whole face mask was white. And I just was looking at that moment and like the wind was like sparkling. And I was like, nobody else gets to see this right now and see how beautiful this moment is because they're too scared to go outside, you know? And I'm like, I'm just sitting here like chasing my dreams going, I don't want to be fat anymore, you know? And so I'm going for a walk and it's nothing strenuous. Like I'm just going for a walk, but there was not one other footprint in the snow that day. And so those are the moments when I was just like solidified that, okay, I'm on the right path, right? And so it was really a transition moment for me in my belief on myself that I do deserve to win and I do deserve to have this life because I am creating it, right? And it's not just like, I'm going to be a millionaire, you know, and I'm going to be fit. Well, that year I lost almost 100 pounds and I did finish 75 hard. And that's 75 days of no cheat meals, right? When I'm used to eating a pizza every short change. Like it was crazy to me to be able to create that process for myself, but it taught me discipline and it taught me mental toughness and grit and like just to be able to visualize what you're looking for. And I don't know what it was that really did it for me, but just helping me believe in myself. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially is having that doubt that they're going to be able to accomplish their goals. So I think that it stops them from actually putting them on paper. So I love that you said that, just put it on paper, because I'll tell you, if I didn't have to do my daily accountability on my social media and do a progress picture every single day, I would not have been able to go back 10 days and be like, oh yeah, I have lost weight, you know, or like, holy cow, I lost 40 pounds in 75 days, you know? And like, I went from kind of chubby to like, pretty fit, you know? And then I was like, wow, I can actually see like definition in my muscles. And I started really loving yoga and finding what mattered for me. So now I don't have to be Superwoman and do 2 workouts a day and like sauna and, you know, like do my cold shower and everything like that. But it's taught me those routines on how to be successful and what matters to me. Right. So I don't know. It's been a fun journey. And I hope that a lot of people are willing to dig into this because especially at this time of the year, a lot of people are reflecting on what their life has looked like the last year and what the next year is going to look like in years to come. And I always say, you have a choice because you can do the same thing you did this year, but next year is going to look the same as what I did this year. Or you can make a change and you can figure out what the F is next for you, right? So that being said, we're almost out of time. So I want you guys to be able to have an opportunity to tell people where to find you and how to get a hold of your programs. Especially.
Yeah, totally. It's been great chatting with you. So the easiest place to find us is thefisnext.com. Like my dad said, we are offering free 30-day coaching alongside a copy of the book around the new year. So head to our website, check that out, and we'll connect with you and help you on your what's next.
I love it. Now, final thoughts. Do you guys have anything else that you want to throw at the audience or some words of encouragement or something like that that is going to help them take the initiative to actually go and do it?
One thing I would say is, and you said, Alaina, is so this is a time of year that is well suited for doing an inventory of one's life. And at the same time, looking at that, January 1 date and go, boy, if there's a time that I want, I'm ready to turn the page, maybe try something new and different. First of all, it's a good time this month to make that happen. I know everybody's got a lot of other stuff with the holidays, but this is a really important thing that you do for yourself, and what you do for yourself to make yourself better will bleed out into all the other relationships that you have, whether they're work, personal, whatever. So, investing some time right now in your own, making your life better, through this process of inventory of who you are, and then making an intention on something, a stretch in an important area of your life is necessary. The other thing that I think that I want to point out is that this process is not hard. In other words, we're not telling people you have to change per se. We're basically helping you leverage who you already have been. So we took a lot of time to create what's called appreciative inquiry process, is the first step in our process, so that people can connect to how they already have been intentional in their life and created important things. Like you've talked about, you've talked about 7 or 8 things, from being, now a mother, being a partner, the businesses that you've created. And that's part of, whenever you want to do a reevaluation, starting there and knowing that you have those skills and you've done it before, it's just a matter of helping you connect with that. And then a simple way of bringing that into the next thing that you want to have happen in an area of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, I just want my kids to be proud of me, and be like, hey, my mom's so cool. I don't care if they like me or not. No, I'm just joking. I do want them to like me, but at the same time, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to build leaders, and like people who are going out and championing the way that you guys have, right? And so obviously, high five to being an awesome dad to lead your kids down the right path to create that life of their dreams, right? And I love that, like, you're just going out and you're doing the work, and you're doing the work together, which I think is really important, because I don't know, that accountability piece is huge to me. If I don't have someone that I can be like, hey guys, I'm doing this, or I need that person to really hold me accountable to myself, because if I just let my angry voice kick in, I call it my bitch voice, but if I let that bitch voice kick in, man, she's mean. She is mean. And so I think that we hold ourselves back a lot from our dreams and goals because we think we can't do something until we actually are in the process of doing it. And then once you've accomplished it, you're like, oh, I actually can do this. Huh. Right. So I just want to encourage people to go out and do the work, because it's something that you can't avoid. Right. If you want a better life, you have to chase it. You have to really chase it, and you have to want it real bad, or else you're just not going to do the work that it takes to get through those frustrating moments of, Alaina, how did you have 3 miscarriages and still like continue to persevere? And I'm like, because I wasn't done yet. Like, I'm not going to sit there and let that hold me back. If people tell me I'm struggling, well, now I can be an inspiration to other people, and I can help them work through their journeys. And like, oh, you have been creating this incredible business. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm passionate about helping people. And I can tell you guys are too. So I love that. And I appreciate your time so much. So guys, make sure that you're going out and getting their program and getting that book and doing the work together, because I think it's going to help everybody just be better humans. And I think that's really essential when it comes to especially being business owners. If you're not a business owner, that's okay. But being a business owner, if you don't have goals, how are you supposed to build a team? Like, how are you supposed to be a visionary leader? You can't do that if you're not focused on where you're going as an agency, right? Or as a community, or as a partnership, right? I bet working at Google is absolutely incredible, because they're such visionaries, right? And they've got, this is how we do things, but we're open to learning as well. And I love their culture and just like the way that they're allowing people to collaborate together. So anyways, I digress. But to my loyal listeners, I want you guys to just take a minute and go and check out their website and get the book and do the work, because it's going to change your life if you're willing to do the work. So that being said, make sure you click the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or the follow button if you're on Spotify or iTunes. We are a holistically grown podcast. You guys know that. I don't take money from anybody to advertise, and we get shadow banned all the time because we talk about controversial stuff that people don't want you to know about. So just make sure that you're going into it with good intentions and going, hey, maybe this person can benefit from this conversation, and send them to it. Right? That's how we grow it. So that being said, I'm done talking. I appreciate your time. And that's Pursuit of Relentless signing out.